Okay, so I'm going to try and show how to cut up a sculpt in Zbrush ready for 3D printing. So I'm going to cut this into 3 sections and do what's called, I think they call it keying it, which basically means the little like hole and peg for aligning them when you put them back together. So time to cut it up. So I mean, you could print this in one go. Support would be fun, and also you're going to limit the size. I only have an Elegoo Mars printer, so it's quite small. So I want to get the best size I can. So I'm going to chop it across the neck, and I'm going to chop it across the tail. I've already done this and finished the 3D print, as some people may have seen. So I'm just kind of going over what I did. So I don't really. So before I cut it up, what I need to do is I need to join it all together, and I need to decimate it because it's about 6 million polys, which yeah, you can push through a slicer, but some people's slicers wouldn't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join all of these pieces together. So I've got them all in a folder one I prepared earlier. So all the pieces for this model are in this folder. So we've got the body, teeth, claws, the eyes and the tongue. So they're all separate subtools. So when you 3D print, ideally you want everything to be a single watertight mesh. So that means you don't want objects intersecting other objects. So what you have here, where you've got this really high poly mesh with this other low poly mesh inside of it, that's not ideal. You've got intersecting meshes, it's not great. So what we need to do is you need to merge all this together into a single mesh. Now you could just merge all the objects together and do a Dynamesh on it. It would work, a little bit messy, and you do lose some definition. The best way, and something Zbrush is particularly good at, is using live boolean. I have a custom GUI on here, so some of this may look confusing, so bear with it. You should be able to find the pieces in your GUI, but live boolean should be up here anyway. So what we're going to do, the reason I've put them all into the folder is because live boolean works better with the folders. So make a folder and copy all your subtools into the folder, name it if you like. I'm not going to do anything with a base for this little tutorial. So there's all my pieces in the folder. We'll turn live boolean on just so we can see what it actually does. So live boolean, basically the first model in your folder is the first model of live boolean, and then these as you go through. So we've got the teeth here. The moment the teeth, this one here is add. This one I believe is, hang on, if I take this one is subtract. If you use that little segment there. This one is union. So all we get is the union of the two. So what we actually want is add. In fact, what we want on all of these is add. So that's fine. So what I need to do now is I'll just close that folder. On the folder options, you have something called Boolean folder, which is what I'm now going to do. So if I just do Boolean folder, it will take it a little while because it's quite a heavy task. Trying to do this in something like Blender and it would explode. So, but Zbrush is pretty good at doing this. So what we're going to do, this is going to boolean them all together. It's going to basically going to get rid of any interior meshes, and just leave you with a nice welded mesh. And once we've done that, right, so that's that done. So if you look, we'll see what it's done. It's turned the folder off, made the folder invisible, and it's created a new U-mesh Velociraptor there, which is our new boolean mesh. So if I look at that now, it might look the same, but if you look right in close, you can see that what it's done is it's made loads of tiny little polys on the bottom of there and boolean them all in to this, and the same on there. So it's one perfect mesh now. So that's that step. So that's got it all as one perfect mesh. And now what I want to do is use our other feature, which is a Z plugin, which is Decimation Master. So go to your Z plugins, and the best thing to do if you're going to be using them is to just pop open your side panel, and you get your Z plugin and you hit little thing there, pop them in the side. So we don't want 3D print hub yet. What we want is the Decimation Master. Right, so this is an amazing little tool which will take your 5 million poly mesh and reduce it down to 600,000, and you'll not notice the difference. So what you've got to do, I'm not going to add any of the complicated stuff, we'll just simply click pre-process current first. Has to do a little pre-process. Once it's done, pre-process takes a little while, but once it's done that, the actual decimation is reasonably quick. And once it's done this, I'm going to turn all the poly paint off because I'm not interested in the poly paint really. That's not for 3D printing. And you can see what's going on better once you turn the poly paint off. So essentially, this is just going to it's going to pre-process it, and then we can have a few goes, just knocking the percentages down and get the percentage of the amount of polys to get something. I'll go for maybe 800,000 or something like that, maybe a little bit lower. See how it looks. You'd be surprised how good it will look. Then once we've done that, we're going to slice it into 3 pieces. Chop his head off and chop his tail off. So we're nearly done pre-processing. I think, yep, here we go. So this down here, we've got percentage of decimation, which is the final percentage. You've got a number K of polys and points. So this is like, that would be 1,461,000 polys. So it's quite a lot. Right, so nearly done. There you go, processed. So I'm just going to go in here, turn my poly paint off because I just want to see the mesh. I don't want to see any of the poly paint. I'm going to look at the head because the head's probably the most detailed area to look at to see how it looks. So what am I? That's 5 million. So if I go to, I've got a 14%. So that should go to well under 1 million, I think. So if you decimate, you could decimate all, decimate current, decimate all, will decimate every mesh that's visible, I believe. But I just want to decimate current, which is the one we have selected. So click decimate current, and boom, done. And if you look down here, it's now 720,000 polys instead of 5.5 million in seconds. So if I undo that, that's 5 million, and redo it. That's 700,000. Yep, that'll do. If you look at the mesh, you can see what it's done. It's very cleverly just cut around all the areas. So if you look at the bit here, you've got a nice clean mesh around there. It's all very nicely done. So that will do. So we have our decimated dinosaur. Let's just save that just on the off chance it explodes. So what I've got to do next is cut it into 3 pieces. So what we need is, our tools may be different, but you've basically got your brush tool here. So Control and Shift will normally bring up your selection tool. So, but if you click on the tool, you get your options. The options here, what we want is the slice curve, that one there. So I'm going to use a slice curve, and I'm going to slice through the neck. Yeah, go there. Doesn't look like it's done anything. Nope. So Shift F, or on there, the polyfill. I'll turn that on. I'll turn the mesh or the wireframe off so you can just see the fill. So now you can see what it's done. It's basically sliced that into 2 poly groups. And I'm going to do this one as well, the tail. So I'm down there. While I've got that held, because if I let go of that now, it's going to slice straight. Oh, I'll do it. You'll see it's sliced straight through the leg. That's not what I want. So undo that. Do it again. Control Shift, drag, let go of Control and Shift, double tap Alt, and then do that. And move that to there. Then let go. And there we go. I should have mentioned I didn't have perspective on, which is fine, but make sure you don't have perspective on. You want perspective off when you're doing that, and you want to be on the side view because you want to be a nice clean cut. So if I turn solo mode on, there's a button up here, but I have a hotkey. There's your solo mode there. No, sorry, you can't yet because I've got to split it. So it's still a single subtool, that one there, but what I'm going to do now is split it. So I'm going to do a groups split. So I've got it in my menu here. You should be able to find it somewhere down here. Can't remember now. Is it geometry? No, it's polygroups. Ah, there you go. Polygroups. Group splits in there somewhere over there. Oh, that's it. I have no idea where it is anymore. Apology. Is it in tools, subtool, split? That's it. There you go. Group split here. So that's why custom GUIs are great. I've got all those up there. I just click there, group split, but it's actually in subtools, split, group split. So I click group split. Okay. So what that's now done is if we look at my subtools, I now have a body, a tail, and a head. So you can see them there. So now if I turn on solo mode, you can see I have my body, I have my tail, I have my head, but they have bloody great holes in them, so I need to close the holes. So again, custom GUI, close holes, God knows, I think it's in geometry somewhere. Yeah, there you go, close holes. So close holes, closed. So that one, close holes, closed, my tail, close holes, closed. So that is my pieces. They're all ready. I mean, you could 3D print them, and you could try and stick them together. You'd have fun trying to glue them because there's nothing to line them up with. So ideally you need a pin and a hole. So this is the next step. So got your subtools. So let's rename these. Actually, that doesn't matter. I'll rename them after. So I don't want that folder anymore. I'll keep it. That's because that's the folder of all my pieces. These are my 3 main pieces now. So I have the body here. I'm going to make a new folder for this. Body. Make a new folder for the tail. And I'm going to make a new folder for the head. Right. So we'll turn these off. I just want to look at the body at the moment. So what I turn it off as well. So what I want is a square peg on each of those. I might do another little video on how to make this little peg, because I have one that I've created. I have a little IMM brush which I've made. Now what this IMM brush is it's made out of 2 subtools, which you'll see when I put it on, if I use it. So basically my IMM brush, I just drag that out on there to the size that you want it. So that's my little peg. I can use the thingy tool and move it around if you want. So there's your peg, basically. So when you use an IMM brush, it masks off everything that other than the little brush you just added. So I'm going to go Control click on the background just to invert the mask, and then I'm going to split the masked points. So what that's going to do is that's going to split that off into a separate object. So you see I've got that there. I'm just going to bring my poly paint back so we can see it. Now this little tool which I made is actually two poly groups. There's this shape here, there's an exact copy of it inside, and it's slightly smaller. So the idea is the object that's inside is the one that's going to go on here, and this bigger one on the outside is going to cut the hole in the neck. It will make sense in a moment. So we have this object, so now what I need to do, it's two poly groups, so I'm going to split the groups. So if I group split it, it's now giving me two objects. So if I click that, select that one, that's the outside one, as you can see, because it's pink. If I select that one, that's the inside one, which you can't actually see at the moment because it's inside. So if I actually just get my thingy there, you'll see, if I do that, there it is. See? I don't want to move it, I want to keep it there. So the large one is going to be used to cut a hole in the neck, and the smaller one is going to be used to be a peg on the body. So that is the large one, because when I select it I see the poly group colour, whereas when I select that one I can't see it because it's inside that one. So I select that one, I know it's the right one because I've got my poly fill on and it's coloured. So this is the large one, this is the one that's going to cut out of the head. So I'm going to drag that into the folder with the head. So now what I have left here is I have the small one. So the small one is going to go and be booleaned onto the body. Now you can check that, you want to make sure that it's actually inside the body and not just like floating over the top of it. So an easy way to do that is just to, oops, actually if you turn poly paint off when you're checking the booleans, it's usually better. So if that's boolean subtract, so you can see it's subtracting a little bit of there. That's because it's inside, so that's okay. That's gonna add. That's fine. So that's the neck. So I'm just gonna hide the body. I'm just gonna open the head, and I'll just turn the head on. So the head's got live boolean as well. So at the moment, if you look, that's got live boolean, and that's adding the peg to the thing. I don't want to add this one. I want to take it away. So under there, do that, and that, boom, there's my peg. So if I bring my body back, and actually if I hide the body, you'll see, if you look at it, there's my little peg, and there's my hole. So that's that one done. Oops, frame. So if I go back to the body, head gone. So now what I want to do is I need to do one for the tail. So exactly the same. Go back to the IMM brush on here and just drag it out. Got that completely the wrong place. So we'll just move that down, and that should be alright. And we'll just check again. So I need to split that off again because the IMM brush is part of this this subtool. So Control click to invert that. So that's masked, split masked points. So again we have, I'm going to put polyframe back on so I can see what's selected easily. So that's the head one, that's that one. So this is my new piece. And same as before, I'm going to group split. So I'm going to split this into two objects. So I now have that one and that one. So if I turn that one off, you can see. And so that's the big one again. So the big one is going to be used to cut the hole. So the big one is going into the tail. So drag that into the tail and come back to here. So this is the same as before. This, if I turn that to there, turn the point frame off, you can see if I make it subtract, it is sunk into the body a little bit. So it's okay. So there's my two pegs, both adding to the body. So that's fine. They're okay. So let's close the body down. Select my tail, turn the body off, and turn the tail on. So again, we'll see what's happened is this one is got the adding selected. So take subtract, and there we go. We have the hole cut out. And again, if you want to check it, turn the body back on, hide the actual body, and you can see there's the peg inside. And there's quite a bit of room, but you need quite a bit of room because resin printing almost always either shrinks or expands when it hardens, when it cures. And if they're a perfect fit, they're never going to go together. You're going to spend hours sanding the stupid things down. So it's always best to leave a good gap, a decent size gap on them. So right, so there we have it. That is all more or less done. All I've got to do now is from those little folders, I've got to boolean them together, the same as I did originally when I booleaned the body. So we have the body. So all I need to do is go turn it on. So body, click that little thing there, and I go boolean folder, and give it a second. There we go. Turns the folder off, and it makes the body. So yeah, one body. And same with the tail. Boolean folder, and I want to be quicker. There's my tail. Turn the folder off, and the same with the head. Boolean folder, and there's my head. So all these folders turned off. Don't need these folders anymore, really, but I'll just hang on them for now because they've got all the source stuff in there. If I need to change anything, then it's all there. So that's ready to print. Ready to export to print. And the big problem with printing is scale. Working out what scale you need to print it at. Now, when you go to print in Zbrush, there is the 3D print hub. Now, there's export options. So set your export options to be visible, otherwise it'll export everything, which you don't want. I did that before when I was testing it. So what you need to do, basically you set your scale here, but I find the best thing to do is, or I find that anyway, is to make a box, because the scale is based on on your selected object, or the first object in your list. So it's going to be scaled based on sort of that. But if you want like a constant scale, the best thing to do is to append a cube. So there we go, we'll append a cube and push that to the top. Right. We'll just rename that. Where the hell do I rename? Velociraptor. And I might as well rename these so I know where they are when they export. Body, tail, and head. Right, so the point of this is going to be what we use for your scale. So we'll turn transparent on and ghost because it's easy to see. So if you bring up your transform tool, move tool, oops, and force it to 0. What I want to do is scale this to roughly the size of my object. So that'll do there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a kind of a rough guide for your print. So there we go. That'll do for me. So what you do is update your size ratios in here and pick what's closest to what you think. It's a bit of a weird one, but so we'll just pick that one. So now this here is what it's currently thinks the size is. So to export it, all you need to do is just set this to the size you actually want it to be. It confused the hell out of me for ages, this. So basically that's your X, Y and Z. So that's your Z. This is the widest one, as you can see, because that's the biggest one there. So my Elegoo Mars is, I think, 120. So I want this body part to fit in about 120, so I reckon I can get away with about this entire thing being about 200. So this is an easy measure. I'm going to make that 200, and that'll put these other ones to match in proportion, so that's okay. So all you do now is you check your options. So visible, export separate files, yes. Polypaint, no, I don't really need polypaint. So I'm just going to go export to STL. Choose a folder. So I've just got a little test folder ready. It'll give the file name of your first subtool, which is the point of that cube, as well as scaling. So export. Right. So this is where you choose your naming. It's not that important. So I'm just going to do the subtool name as the file name. Do that, and it shouldn't take too long. There you go, my files were successfully exported. So that's it, done. How do I prove the export? Tell you what, I shall see if I can quickly load up Chitubox and drop one in and see if it works. If my Chitubox works, my Chitubox has a habit of locking up at times, but here you go. Just drag it in here. Alright, is that working? Nope, it's got. Right, okay, so if I just drag the body in, there we go. So if that's recorded right, yeah, you can see that there. So if you look at that, that's about the size I wanted, really. My Chitubox is frozen, so it wouldn't let me zoom in. Oh, there we go. So that would fit. That would print. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's a good size. That's about the size I did my previous one at. So I can do that okay. I'll easily fit the head and tail in there, so I'll get a good size of that. So that's it. The head and tail will be done. If it was the wrong size, you could always go back into Zbrush and just change the sizes of this a little bit and re-export again. I mean, you can scale it in your slicer anyway, but it's nice to have the right scale to start with. So that's it. If you want to do the base is just the same idea. Just Boolean union it all together, decimate it down, and then you probably want to Boolean out a little bit for the foot to sort of sit in on the base. But hopefully that made some sense.